Hello, readers and writers. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I have a question. Am I a good writer? Now, of course, I ask that question in the sense of this is something that all authors ask themselves. Am I actually good at this? Am I a good writer? And if I'm not, why am I doing this? And this is not a question that can be answered easily. This is something that is a personal thing and is on a author to author basis. And frankly, what it comes down to is also a reader to reader basis. So one of the first things that every writer has to take into account is that we're all starting somewhere. We all have to start not really knowing anything about writing. And frankly, writing some really not so great stuff, which honestly is not the nicest thing to hear. It is something that is very much hard to hear and hard to accept, especially when you're first starting out. But the more you end up writing, the more you're going to improve. And that is something that, honestly, is fantastic to find out. After all, that first feeling that you get when you realize that you have improved as a writer, when you take a look at your older work and then come back and read what you've just written and can see the difference, it is such a fantastic feeling. So I think so long as an author is improving, they can't be stated to be a bad writer. Because to be a bad writer would inherently mean that you're not improving. It would mean that you're just stagnating and you're not doing what you need to do to become better than what you were before. Everyone starts somewhere, and everyone starts at either not good or just kind of okay. Because in some cases, a certain level of talent does exist. And talent is something that I want to get to in just a minute. At least my thoughts on talent in general. There are people who just pick up on how to write easier than others. I myself am not one of those people. I have had to work hard for every improvement that I have made as an author. And frankly, that helps me appreciate my own work so much more. I appreciate my older work because it shows me where I started. It shows me how I began. And while I have taken my first 6 books off the market because I plan to rewrite them and rework them because they just don't fit my standard anymore, this is also the only time that I'm going to be doing that. And I think that's something that an author should also keep in mind going forward is that you can go back and fix things if you're not happy with how they were when you were first starting out as an author. I think if an author is going to do that, they should do it sparingly and only really do it with their first few books. I think if they decide to just continue to do that constantly, it's not going to go over well, especially with your readers. And readers is another thing that I'm going to bring up in a bit. Uh, for right now, let's talk about talent. Because I mentioned talent before, that some people just catch on to it easier. I am not one of those people, and I think talent is one of those things that it's both a good thing and a bad thing. Talent can be really good because it helps an author pick up on things that they wouldn't normally pick up on otherwise. I have seen people with talent in all sorts of things. I have seen writers with talent. I have seen musicians with talent. I have seen people with mechanical talents. And I've also seen a bit of a trend with people who have these talents. And it's that they kind of take their talent for granted. They don't really work on things near as hard as someone who doesn't have talent. And while that is definitely not a be all end all, like that's not to say that everyone who has talent doesn't actually work on things, because that is so not the case. I do find that people who have to work for it, that people who do the thing because they have a passion for it, not just a talent for it, appreciate how far they come, even more than those who have talent. I've also found that people who don't have talent and write because they have a passion for it tend to notice their own improvements and appreciate how far that they've come. And it really shows in their writing. especially how far that they're willing to go in terms of learning in their writing. And you can definitely see this when it comes to readers. Readers are both a great way of showing that something is a good piece of work and also a terrible way of showing that something is a good piece of work. I myself am a reader as well as being a writer. Now, I think all writers should be readers to a certain extent. I'm a big reader, but I do have a taste, and I do have things that I connect with and things that I don't. I'm not going to say that my taste as a reader is a great way to determine if a book is good or not. I can only say that something was good for me. And I think that's something that every other writer can say. Their taste works for them. Like, for example, Lord of the Rings. It is considered to be an objectively great piece of work. Is everyone into it? No. I have to reread it. I haven't read it since junior high, so I can't say anything one way or the other on it. But from what I remember of it, it was really good. Jane Austen is also said to be a really good author. Pride and Prejudice is said to be objectively a good book. I would agree. Pride and Prejudice was really good. Not amazing, it didn't blow me away, but I enjoyed it. There are a lot of books that are said to be just objectively good that I did not get into, that I did not enjoy, like Wuthering Heights. I hated that book. I hated it. Or something like, say, A Confederacy of Dunces. People really like that book. I don't get it. I don't get why people enjoy it. I think it is a nasty piece of literature following a character who's just the worst to follow. And then there are books that are commonly considered as being objectively bad that people genuinely enjoy, like 50 Shades of Grey or Twilight. Those books have a huge fan base. And it's hard to imagine books that are bad having a huge fan base, but they do. So, going back to the original question of am I a good writer, and by extension, are you as an author a good writer? It's all subjective. So, if you get a bad review, if it's constructive, take what you can from it and go with it. If it's not constructive, whatever. If it's a good review, sweet, awesome. If it's a non constructive good review, still cool. Reviews are reviews. Don't let them determine your self worth and your worth as an author. I know this video is a little rambly and kind of all over the place, but this is not exactly an easy topic to talk about without going all over the place, because it is one of those things where unless you have a objective set of what is considered to be good writing and bad writing and can be determined by all that something is good and something is bad, then the idea of am I a good writer is irrelevant. And I guess that's kind of the whole point is am I a good writer is an irrelevant question. It is a question that we as authors should not be asking ourselves because frankly, it doesn't matter. Write the books that you want to write it in the way you want to write them, and just continue to learn and improve. That is honestly the best piece of advice that I can give when it comes to the idea of am I a good writer. Keep writing, keep improving, and appreciate any and all improvements that you make. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun YouTube-y stuff. Especially commenting. People don't comment very often, and I would very much like to talk to my audience. But until that happens, keep reading and keep writing.